Hello everyone, my name is Nikita. I am from EC branch. My subject is C programming language and my topic is concept of assembler. What is assembler? An assembler is a program that converts an assembly level language code into machine level language code and provides necessary information for the loader to load the program. Since most compiler converts source code directly to machine code, software developer often create programs without using assembly language. However, in such cases, assembly code can be used to fine tune a program. For example, a programmer may write a specific process in assembly language to make sure it functions as efficiently as possible. While assembly language differs difference between processor and architecture, then often include similar instructions and operators. Assem- Assembly code is converted into executable machine code by a Unity program referred to as in assembler. The term assembler is generally attributed to vehicles who however used the term to mean a program that assembles program consisting of several sections into a single program. The conversion process is referred to as assembly, as in assembling the source code. The computational steps when an assembler is processing a program is called assembly time. Because assembly depends on machine code instructions, each assembly language is specific to a particular computing architecture. Sometimes there is more than one assembler for a same architecture, and sometimes an assembler is specific to an operating system or to particular operating system. Most assembly Most assembly languages do not provide specific syntax for operating system calls, and most assembly languages can be used universally with any operating system as the language provides access to all the real capabilities of the processor upon which all system call machine mechanisms ultimately rest. In contrast to assembly language, most high level programming languages are generally portable across multi architectures but receive interpreting or compiling much more complicated tasks than assembly. In the first decade of computing, it was commonplace for both system programming and application programming to take place entirely in assembly language. While still irreplaceable for some purpose, the majority of programming is now conducted in higher level interpreted and compiled language. In summarized, the effect of the switch away from assembly language programming, surely the most powerful stroke for software productivity, reliability, and simplicity has been the progressive use of high level language for programming. Most observers credit the development with at least a factor of 5 in productivity and with concomitant gain in reliability, simplicity, and comprehensibility. Today, it is a typical to use a small amount of assembly language code within large system implicated in a higher level language. For performance reason, or to interact directly with hardware in ways unsupported by a higher level language. For instance, just under 2% of version of source code is written in assembly. Introduction to assembly language. Assembly language is a low-level programming language. It helps to understand the programming language to machine code. In computers, there is an assembler that helps in converting the assembly code into machine code executable. Assembly language is designed to understand the instruction and provide it to machine language for further processing. It mainly depends on the architecture of the system, whether it is operating system or computing architecture. Typical uses are device which drives low level embedded system and very real time system. The assembly language is converted into executable machine code by a assembler, which basically is utility program. The program of conversion is called assembling the code or assembly. Assembly language is mission specific and considered a low level language. This means that the code and syntax much closer to the computer processor, memory, and input output system. A high level language is designed with keyword liberations and a syntax that introduces a high level or abstraction between the language and the hardware. Since a computer behavior is defined by its instruction set, the logical way to learn such concept is to study assembly language. Assembler directives. There are there are not the part of processor instruction set. Instructions to assembler, linker, and loader also refers as pseudo operations. They enable to control the way in which programmer assembles and lists, act during assembly of programmer, and do not generate any machine executable code. Why should we learn assembly language? The learning of assembly language is still important for programmers. It helps in taking complete control over the system and its resources. By, learn, by learning assembly language, the programmer can write the code to access, register, and retrieve the memory address of pointers and values. It mainly helps in speed optimizing the increase efficiency and speed increase efficiency and performance. Assembly language learning helps in understanding the processor and memory function. If the programmer is writing any program that need to be compiler, that means the programmer should have to complete understanding of the processor. Assembly language helps in understanding the work of processor and memory. It is cryptic and symbolic language. Here we can see the development of assembly language, which is linked with one another. Features. The feature of the assembly language are mentioned below. It can use mnemonic than numeric operation code, and it also provides the information of any error in the code. This language helps in specifying the symbolic operand. That means it does not need to specify the machine address of that operand. It can be represented in the form of a symbolic. The data can be declared by using decimal notation. Assembler. The assembler are used to translate the assembly language into machine language. There are two types of assembler: single pass, multi-pass assembler. Single pass assembler. A single assembler pass is referred to as the complete scan of source, source program input to assembler, or equivalent representation and translation by the statement on the basis of statement called a single pass assembler or one pass translator. It validates the code instruction by looking them up in a mnemonic code table. It enters the symbol found in the label field and addresses the text available machine board into the system table. These pass is fast and effective I no need to construct the intermediate code. Multi-pass assembler. In this type of assembler, the assembler goes through assembly language several times and generates the object code. In that last pass is called a synthesis pass. And this assembler requires any form of an intermediate code to generate each pass every time. It is comparatively slower than a single pass assembler, but some actions that can be performed more than one means duplicated. Assembler functions converts mnemonic operation code to their machine language equipment, converts operands to symbolic operands to their equivalent machine address, converts the data converts the data constant into internal machine. Write the object program and the assembly listing. It was some years before tools arrived market and a few years ago developed. Assembly variables. It provides various defined directives for reserving storage space for various. The, def- the define assembler directive is used for allocation of storage space. It can be used to reverse as well as initialize one or more bytes. Here we can see the storage and the bytes. The assembly programming language needs a good knowledge of machine architecture, operating system, and programming principles. Assembly language in case intensive, therefore the program can be coded either in uppercase or lowercase or a combination of both. The program written in assembly language are compact and efficient, which have to converted to machine code for execution, and it is performed by the translator known as assembler. Advantages allows complex job to run in a similar way. It is memory efficient as it requires less memory. It is memory efficient and it requires less memory. It is a faster in speed as it execution time is less. It is mainly hardware oriented. It requires less instruction to get the result. It is used for critical job. It not required to keep track of memory location. It is a low level embedded system. Machine dependent lengthy code. It is the generate a small and compact execution module. They have more control over hardware. They generate executable module and run faster. Machine language program can be replaced by mnemonic that are easier to remember. Efficient use of memory. it is not It is not necessary to keep track of memory location. The speed is faster, easy to insert and delete data, oriented towards hardware. The same result can be achieved with the favor instructions. Disadvantages machine dependent, lengthy code, error prone. One small sized computer, such programs cannot be executed. Coder writing the program takes a lot of time as it is complex. The syntax is difficult to remember. Programs cannot be transferred between computers of different makes. It takes a lot of time and effort to write a code for the same. It is very complex and difficult. The syntax is difficult to remember. It has a lack of portability of program between different computer architectures. It needs more size of memory of the computer to run the long program written in assembly language. Typical users are devices, low level embedded system, and very time system. It's a very real time system. The assembly language is converted into executable machine language by assembler, which basically is a utility program. The programmer conversion is called assembling the code. This means that the code and syntax are much closer to the computing program, memory, and input output system. Since the computer behavior is defined by its instruction set, the logical way to learn such concepts is to study assembly language. Pros and cons. Pros. Execution may be more simple compared to other languages. Execution is usually faster compared to other languages, allows for direct control over hardware. Code may remain smaller compared to other languages. Cons. Programming may be more challenging to pick up compared to high level language. Syntax of assembler language is difficult. It is not portable between machines. Conclusion. Assembly language is very important for understanding the computer architecture and programs for the programmers. The programmer mainly used many other programming languages for application development and storage. Sorry. And storage, application development and software, but assembly language also important. It helps programmer to achieve a lot if they implement the assembly language. Assemblies contain a lot of metadata, that is version number, localization details and other product details. It is important part and provides to the user after signed. If an individual want to know how the system works and the processor as well, then assembly language is one of the solves the purpose. It helps in its aspects for understanding the algorithm of the program to the processor working and registering the register of the computer. It depends on individual choice with which languages continue. Thank you.